Some skills, honestly, are just not going to be good PVM skills, and some skills are going to be better for PvP. And then you can throw off the balance of one by buffing something up too much in another area. You can also throw the balance off by nerfing something. Go to buy something from the grocery store, and you think like, oh, that's this. It's all the same fucking person you're buying it from. Alright, I was thinking about dropping another build video, but I decided I wanted to talk about a couple things involving this game recently. And that's something that's prevalent in a lot of areas of society in the world, and that's the illusion of choice. Honestly, there's not very many in-game viable builds with all these runes and all these other things that we need to hunt, and how many runs that it takes to get these runes and stuff like that, especially on lower player counts. I'm picking the Hammerden right now just as an example so I can show some things. Like, in order to get like Burr runes, Jaw runes, Vex runes, Ohm runes, the most efficient way is either playing in a high players count game with a bunch of other players that might snatch that rune off the ground, or it's seal popping, like going to Chaos Sanctuary, go open up the bottom or the top depending on what the spawn is over here. I'll just show it while I talk. But I mean, you know what seal popping is. I'll just show it. But so you seal pop. This isn't the side that I would pop based off the way that spawn is right there. Come up here. Get him out the way. Come over here. Take out that. Take out the Sace. Go all the way down. Okay, and then go here. Okay, you get the picture. So there's very few builds where you can actually go through Chaos Sanctuary and do that fast. It's really limited to like that and a Sorceress. Maybe a couple other builds, but the teleport frames and everything is really clunky. So on to my main point. If you want to get runes, if you want to hunt for the best items in the game that make certain builds viable in hell difficulty, that really require certain rune words and stuff, like even like getting Enigma, you're basically forced to use a Sorceress in order to farm the runes to get Enigma. Like in any kind of efficient manner, unless you just want to trade for it, or unless you want to go on some website and spend real life money, which is essentially cheating. If you want to do that, go ahead. But my whole thing is, how many skills on this tree, how many Holy Freeze Paladins do you see running around in Hell mode? How many Thorns Paladins do you see running around in Hell mode? You only see Conviction Paladins, Fanaticism, and maybe Holy Shock. You can do Holy Shock, but I don't see that because everybody just has Dual Dream and they're running Conviction. So it's like, in order to get those runes, you're forced to basically be a Sorceress, or you're forced to be a Hammerden that runs around, which is actually faster than any melee character. But if we're talking about build diversity, how come all the melee characters are only capped at 95% chance to hit, and that's when you like have really low health pool on them. That's when you sacrifice a lot of strength in order to pump into a ton of dexterity, or you have to wear the angelic ring with the angelic amulet, or you have to have a blessed aim mercenary. I'll kill Diablo real quick. So you're forced to have a blessed aim mercenary. You're forced to have certain things, like, for instance, like this whirlwind barbarian, grief, last wish. Look at all these freaking runes, chains of honor, like certain gear and stuff that you have to have. It's like Ariat's face or G face. That's your only choices. And then this kills Chaos Sanctuary slower than a Lightning Sorceress or a Blizzard Sorceress. I mean, you might have to put a Infinity on the Lightning Sorceress, or you could just run around with the lower resist wand, but you're teleporting around and getting certain things done. There's a certain reason why majority of the players are on Sorceress. It's because they don't have all this crazy fucking gear. But if you look at these skill trees, it's like you're going to be either a Frenzy Barbarian or a Whirlwind Barbarian, or a combination of both. Or maybe a Berserk Barbarian, or Frenzy, but 1 point in Berserk so you can take out physical immunes. I understand that there's less physical immunes in the game, so maybe that's the balanced decision by choosing to make your average chance to hit lower. But, you know, that's why I do things like have a Blessed Aim Mercenary, and sometimes I'll wear dual Angelic Rings. Angelic Ring with the amulet, so that I can hit the enemy, the boss, like 91% of the time when I have like 29,000 attack rating. Okay, so my point is the illusion of choice. Like, you could play Leap Attack Barbarian Leap, but then you're gonna have to rely on like Berserk or Concentrate or Frenzy. So it's really like a lot of these characters, you kind of have the illusion of choice because you're forced to use the same attacks with the same characters over and over again. And if you want to even get these kind of runes to be able to do some of these builds in hell difficulty, you're literally forced to like grind over and over and over with the same sorceress or whatever. It's like Fire Sorceress in hell difficulty isn't really good unless you have an Infinity on it, or unless you stick to like 2 fucking places in the whole game. I don't really use my Sorceress very much. I use my Sorceress literally 200 faster cast rate, literally just to run Summoner and Countess to get the keys. And then I take the Enigma off my Paladin, put it on my Necromancer to do Keys of Destruction. But it's like these, how many of these spells never get used because there's really only like one option, and a lot of these are mostly just used for mid game. Aside from that, it's just one option unless you have some crazy gear. But how do you get to that crazy gear? And also, why would you want to nerf something to try to push somebody in a direction that's just going to make the game less fun to play? All that's going to do is kill off the player base. If you want to like change somebody's idea to want to play a different build, make something else comparable. Make something else even stronger than that thing that you're saying needs to be nerfed. Or just leave the game alone, because when you change a game that's been there for 20 years and a meta has been established and you try to like nerf something into the ground, all it's going to do is it's going to push the long time supporters away. It's going to piss people off that this character that they invested all this time getting all these items and stuff is now useless, and now it's like, oh, what's the point in making Chains of Honor? What's the point in making Enigma? What's the point in making this? What, you know, like Enigma doesn't have any resistances. That's like the big downside to it. You know, Sorceress is kind of overpowered, but she has enemies that are immune to certain things. That's the balance to it. I guess melee characters have at max 95% chance to hit. That's the balance to it. Like the one assassin skill that makes her anywhere near as good as the smiter is her kick, her dragon talon hitting all the time. She doesn't have any special resistances. She doesn't have any special shields or claws that come with like a ton of resistances packed onto them. So it's hard to stack up resistances with a character like this. It really is. You know, you can have silence, and then I could put like death here or whatever. You know, last wish and then proc fade before I do any runs. But I mean, as far as like all of these skills, all that nerfing Dragon Talon's gonna do is just make me use a smiter for the bosses instead. Because I mean, why would I use this anymore when it's got lower resistances, less survivability, and all these other things? I'm just gonna go full Trapsin at that point. You know, there's other problems with the game, like the whirlwind not being as able to control. You can't control the whirlwind as well as it should be able to be controlled. Like if I switch over to legacy view right here, okay, look, watch on not. I mean, there's even times where you literally like get frozen while you're teleporting. You have less control teleporting. You teleport while you whirlwind. But there's like so many skills. Like for instance, Fend, Impale. They're buffing Impale on the Amazon. But she literally... Impale is such a slow attack, nobody's gonna use it. So you're gonna nerf something else to try to force somebody in a direction to play something that's not fun to use because it's just gonna make the game more tedious. All that it's gonna do is drive players away. Make more builds that actually change the form of playstyle for that particular character. Like throwing plague javelins and throwing poison javelins don't feel any different than throwing ones with lightning on them. There's just a different animation on the screen, in my opinion. Personally, you know, Fend got a buff. Fend is getting a buff. Impale is getting a buff, but I don't think that they're enough of a buff. Honestly, like it seems like they can't. They either overtune something or they nerf something into the ground and completely ruin it. And when you nerf something into the ground and completely ruin it, when things take as much time to earn as they do in this game, you're just gonna drive players away. They're just gonna get bored. They're just gonna get pissed off. They're gonna just play single player on Pluggy or something. Or they're gonna find a way to roll this game back a couple patches and play it on single player. That's all that's going to happen. The online player base has already dwindled down. I don't think that they've upgraded the servers or increased their capacity or anything. If anything, players have just quit playing the game. That's just what happens, and eventually the player base becomes so small. You know, if what they're trying to do is drive people off of the game and get them into the mindset of, oh man, I can't wait for Diablo 4, then this is the way to do it by all means. But I just don't think that nerfing certain things for the sake of trying to push somebody in another direction, that's like taking away all the vegetables so vegetarians decide they want to eat meat. Honestly, that's what I think it is. It's like doesn't make any sense. Oh, you want to make skeletal mages better? Good. Improve them. That's like making the other summons weaker so people will play skeleton mage. Just buff skeleton mage up more. And clearly they didn't buff it up enough, honestly. Like poison and bone spear. Some skills, honestly, are just not going to be good PVM skills, and some skills are going to be better for PvP, and then you can throw off the balance of one by buffing something up too much in another area. you can also throw the balance off by nerfing something. I'm more for just buffing certain things and leaving certain other stuff alone. Certain stuff should just be left alone. If something is overpowered, don't use it. If something's overpowered and you don't want it in your melee tournament, ban it from the tournament. Consider it to be BM or whatever. Consider it bad mannered. You know, don't use double Raven Frost. Don't use if Dragon Talon's a problem, don't allow people to use it in your melee. Have it be claw attacks only. You know what I mean? There's ways around it other than, you know, you don't want somebody to take this road anymore, so you just cut the road off and force them a different direction. All that's doing is lowering the chance. It's like, I don't know. I hope that this makes sense to somebody, and you know, whether you agree or not with me, that's fine. I'm not trying to be like offensive or anything like that. I just feel like it's one of those things like the illusion of choice. It's like, you know, you go and you go to buy something from the grocery store, and like go to buy something from the grocery store, and you think like, oh, that's this. It's all the same fucking person you're buying it from. You're buying all this shit from the same person. Like, terrible quality image, but you're buying all these things. You think these are all these different brands. It's all the same person you're buying the shit from. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Like, you're I don't know. I hope that makes sense. It's like, how there's another one with like TV companies. You get my point though. What I'm saying is the illusion of choice, the idea that you have all these options, when in reality, it's like when they tell kids, you can be an astronaut, you can be this, you can be that. Yeah, you can. How many of them are actually going to be an astronaut, and how many of them are going to receive the support around them, aside from that one or two people or whatever that actually push them to pursue their dreams? And how many people are going to get pushed in this one direction? When you nerf one thing or whatever, everybody's just going to go to whatever the other meta is. You're going to make it more and more cookie cutter. Just how, like, if, you know, I make a video with a certain build and I try something new. Oh no, that's not the way it is. Yeah, that's what happens when you nerf things. When you nerf things, you make like one obvious choice, and then everything else is just either not fun to do, or it's just not viable enough, and then not everybody has enough time to play as it is, probably. So when you make things less efficient, all it does is hurt everybody. That was my rant. Hope everybody has a good one. Let me know what your thoughts on it are.